When it rains, it pours. And when it's paper, there's origami. Or an origami killer. Heavy Rain was originally a PlayStation 3 game that released a number of years ago and has recently found its way on PlayStation 4 via downloadable, at least in the US. And if you have Beyond Two Souls on PS4, you're able to get this game, like I have, for $10. Originally, I believe it's going for $30, and I believe you can get the Beyond Two Souls and Heavy Rain collection bundle for around, I believe, $40 or so. So with all that getting out the way, let's see if this is just a port, or a lazy port, or not. As a disclaimer, it might be some minor spoilers, mainly just stuff that might have happened within, I would say, an hour or so within the beginning part of the game. With all that getting out the way, let's get into the story. You play as Ethan Mars, a father who unfortunately sees his son tragically hit by a car, and thus having to deal with that unfortunate tragedy. But he does have another son who unfortunately has to go through another tragedy, but not through death, but being kidnapped by the origami killer, who you, along with other characters that you are able to play as, that I will get into shortly, end up having to deal with this origami killer, in the sense that finding out who the origami killer is, and also, at least for Ethan Mars, has to find his son Sean before time is up. But is Ethan Mars, or better yet you, the player, willing to go through a number of trials and such to get to your son, or just lead into another unfortunate tragedy for Ethan Mars? The choice is yours, and I in particularly enjoyed it, and I found it to be very interesting and a surprising twist, I might add, which I will not give away for anyone who, well, haven't played the game yet. Even though the game is a few years old, some people like me did not get a chance to play it.
I sometimes have these.
Next character you get to play as is a woman by the name of Madison Page, who seems to have a bit of a troubled past, or at least a troubled lifestyle, from what has been shown within the beginning parts of her introduction to the game. Though you learn more about Madison and the other characters, such as being able to bond with other characters if you choose so, such as Madison Page being able to build a bit of a relationship with Ethan Mars, or Ethan Mars being able to build a relationship with Madison Page. Again, the choices are up to you, and it's up to you to decide how these characters' fates and interactions are determined within the story and the outcome of the game. Next we have Scott Shelby, a private eye who is pretty much hell-bent on finding the origami killer at almost any cost, but ends up having to go through a number of hurdles, just like the other characters, along his way to find as much information as he can within the case. On top of that, he ends up bonding, just like the other characters, with a character who is a side character that I found very interesting in the name of Lauren Winter, that you end up meeting within the game. But of course, things can end up going wrong, and things can end up being pretty lethal at times. As you can see with the gameplay, a number of button prompts and presses and interactions with the controller, motion control, ends up happening. And here we have Norman Jayden, who ends up taking up the origami killer case on his own behalf, lending his hand to the investigation team as much as he can. But he is very similar to Scott Shelby in a way where he ends up having to interact and interrogate a number of characters, and also finding as much clues as possible. But different from Scott Shelby, Norman Jayden is able to possess these sunglasses and a glove that is very mysterious, but also is able to allow him to see clues and inspect clues that other characters cannot, or at least other police officers or detectives can, thus making him a very valuable asset to the case, and making him a very interesting character with a lot more to him than just him finding clues and getting into heated exchanges with other characters. Having to deal with his own demons, in the sense of what he's able to possess, can end up being very fatal to him. Again, these choices are up to you, the player, to make them out the way you want to. Depending on how you choose to play the game, will result in a different outcome for all of these characters, including side characters as well. Gameplay has you going through a number of button sequences that you either have to complete or optionally end up failing, depending on how you end up playing the game, how good you are with these type of gameplay mechanics is up to you. For me, I was a bit of a mixed bag where I was doing pretty well for the most part, and then there was times where I was pretty much screwing up numerous times. And for the most part, I tried to get the best outcome that I wanted, not being so picky with everything, excuse me, and I ended up getting what I ended up wanting at the end, at least for me. There's multiple endings and multiple ways to progress within the game. It is no real game over, though the story ends up continuing whichever way you end up succeeding or failing. Making your choices and everything pretty much in the game that you end up doing matter, not only within the gameplay but also with the dialogue as well, and how you end up interacting with other objects. Very similar to other interactive games, this game is very similar to those in those ways, but I feel like a lot of my choices and things that I did really mattered. Graphically, the game looks great. Going from PS3 to PS4, this is definitely not a simple port. It was done with a lot of care, and I really enjoyed the game a lot, especially the visuals, along with other things such as sound effects and also voice acting. Though I found the voice actor for Ethan Mars to be a bit off here and there, but overall, delivery of all the characters was done very well. And some lip syncing issues here and there. On top of that, there was a few, well, weird facial animations that did occur. The game overall was gripping from beginning to end, and I found it very hard to put down and stop playing. It almost felt like I was playing some kind of crime drama that was just so intense and so thrilling that I just wanted to see what was happening and find out the mysteries and just solve this case once and for all. And once everything was done and the credits rolled, I was really taken back at how great this game was and how thrilling it was, and I have to commend Quantic Dream for that. So with all that being said, that was my review of Heavy Rain.